ZABAL Games Season 1 is in search of workshop leads. June is the prep month, a library of recorded sessions that gets a whole cohort of first-to-vibe coders ready before the ship a thing this July. If you have built something worth teaching, you have a session to give. Visit ZABALGames.com, that's ZABAL Games.com, and sign up. What is the ZABAL Games? 3 months, June, July, August. June is prep with ZAO teachers, vibe coding instructors run recorded sessions on tools, context, and the ecosystem. July is the open build-a-thon. Anyone with the vibe coding harness ships a build for the ZABAL ecosystem publicly. August is the finals, a cohort curated from July. Each builder paired with a ZAO mentor for the main event, winner reveal. GM.
What's up? How we doing? Metamoo. We are live today for another episode of ZABAL Games with the workshop here with Metamoo. How we living, King?
Hey, what's going on with y'all? Almost tripped and stumbled, but we keep on running, right? You know what I mean? It's your man's Metamoo, founder of LC Web 3 in the building. What's going on with you all? How's it with you, right?
Bro, it is amazing to have you here. We've had a lot of different conversations and a lot of different run-ins in my time in Web3, in a lot of different communities in Web3. I'm excited to talk here about being a community member that adds value in Web3. And I think you have a lot of good things to say. And I'm excited to chop it up with you here and teach some folks that might be newer to coming into the space what are ways that they could get involved with a community like mine here, the ZABAL Games, the ZAO, or something like what you're building here in Rose City Web3, or one of these huge organizations that are, permissionless, like Ethereum as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, do you want to give a little intro about yourself?
Yes, sir. So I'm here, Portland, Oregon. I'm a founder, an artist first, and I'm learning to be a founder and growing in the Web3 space. I've been a part of a ton of different communities, including NFT communities and including DAO communities, so I feel like I have a big wealth of knowledge around Web3 and what Web3 has to offer, you feel me? And so I'm just excited to get into the conversation, man, and explore some topics around Web3, and we're all trying to fight for, blockchain technology in the future and how we can make it more accessible to, all of our friends and family out there, you feel me?
Facts. That's well said. Let me give a quick little background. We only live less than 30 miles apart, but met for the first time halfway across the U.S. in Florida at an event in Miami for Jaden Violet's UVR, which was really cool because it was an opportunity to meet in person and be like, oh, you're this person? No way, like, we live so close together, let's make sure we link up. So that was a really cool opportunity, and then we connected out in Portland, chatted. That was, for me, a crazy part of my experience because that was the beginning part of me getting into the space, learning about the regen movement and DAOs and getting it from a perspective of people in person. And I think that was very valuable because my first DAO experience was an in-person DAO, and that changed what my perspective was to most people, where DAOs were some international group of individuals that didn't have like this like physical meeting spot. So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah,
and unique perspective to have coming in because most people are on the digital side and haven't had the chance to organize in person or in their own communities. You know what I mean? So you have a very unique perspective.
Yeah, dude, it was nuts because it was cool because it was a rise and fall. Like PDX DAO in and of itself started and then ended because they were given a certain amount of time to find a revenue stream that worked to be able to pay the rent for the area, the makerspace that was being given, right, that people were going to, that I think I introduced you to really close to the end of the time there at one point. But it was a cool experiment because I got to see that, and then the second DAO that I was part of that that closed officially, as opposed to just like going like into the night like completely and ghosting, right? Like some DAOs just like dissipate, but like officially closing was with Candy. Candy and I were the last two people in a DAO that initially had like 100, 150 people. And when I joined, it only had 5, and then the other 3 at some point along the 3 to 6 months left. And between the two of us, we were like, well, let's end this and start anew in the music space and like trying to attack what you've been building. So that was really cool. Candy came up with the name for the ZAO, and that's kind of how we started our community. So throughout that experience, I got to see the UVR community, the Onaji community, and a couple others that we've both been a part of grow in different ways. And I've taken models from each of them to incorporate into my community because I've seen those pros. What are some of the things that you've kind of seen in the space that you think are positive traits to like look for as a maybe new individual in Web3? What are ways that you can tell a positive community?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess I'll just start right here on at home base with the ZAL. You know what I mean? One thing I would say, if you're new and you're looking to join a Web3 community, hopefully you can be able to meet some people. You know, first and foremost, I think that's important. If you're local, if you're able to reach out to the local people around you and try to organize with them, you know, I think that's a big positive. I think that was a big positive of our relationship. We were able to meet each other, even though you're not the only person I met, you know, at events and then came back home to organize with. You know what I mean? There's been a ton of different people who I'm like, wow, you're from Portland. We've never been able to interact or, you know, build together in our own city. So that's number one. If you can have the ability to reach out to your people in your city, bring them together, organize with them. You know what I mean? So that's a big plus. I got to meet you in person. Some other things that Zal does very well, I think, is really having that personal touch. You know what I mean? Each week you all get together and you're able to meet and talk about the work that you're doing, whether it's in Web3 or it's IRL being in real life or in your life. You know, and letting each member have a chance to contribute, you know what I mean? And so if you're new and you're looking to get into something, go somewhere where they have mechanisms and support structures to be able to allow you to contribute, whether that be just sharing what you're doing in your personal artistic life or what you aspire to want to do, you know what I mean? So that you can kind of get support and grow. That's the goal, right? We all want to grow. We all want to be better humans. So you're going to want to join a community that has a mechanism to allow you to grow, contribute, and prosper within that community. So I think that's one thing I've seen positive that you do really well with the ZAL and the community that you built. When we go over to, let's say, the more general DAO side, I think if you're looking for a DAO, you're going to be looking for, again, a mechanism like, I guess I could shout out Pizza DAO, you know what I mean? A mechanism where they have a format that you can contribute to, you know, that you can come in as a person. You know, we all have our different skills, IRL, that we want to bring into Web3, and we're all trying to bridge those skills and gaps, right? So you're going to be looking for a community like that has a formal structure where even if, you know, because we're moving towards decentralization, right, and with these DAOs. And so even if the leaders, which there are leaders in DAOs, I think there's a misconception, but even if the leaders are gone, the community is able to pick up that work and continue going on with it. You have a structure like that. They have a structure like that. You know what I mean? Some people might say it's too structured for Web3, but that's what people need, because the ambiguity leads to people being left behind or left in the dark. And when you have structures that include people and bring them in, then you can find your place, you know what I mean? And you can really find how you can contribute.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That was 4 amazing points. I appreciate that. I've been very blessed I could probably point to a specific community for each one of those that I've been able to take something out of and find that culture from something that I've been aspiring to emulate. And it's been really good leaders, like you said, of DAOs or communities that I've been seeing that have done good things and lead and inspire other folks to become better builders, get more involved, whether it's in their community, physically IRL, or online in a digital community. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the point of seeing. One of the things I always like seeing in a community when I join is how does the initial individual who introduces you ask you about what you're doing? Like, how excited and interested are they in the individuals that are coming into their server and onboarding them into what they're doing? Because I saw a couple different groups and communities that have done that really well, and a couple of groups and communities that have done that really poorly. So when you see that, and when you can join in and just immediately get involved, and like you said, the structures, that's super important. So it's once you have that 1-2 minute conversation back and forth, and the person's like, okay, cool, this is a community that I want to get more involved in. It's like, okay, there's a community meeting for us every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, but for any other community, let's say Wednesday, Friday, this specific time every single week, routine that we meet, and you can come in and introduce yourself and get involved and tell people what you do. And I think that part has been really important about what we try and do, is the show and tell portion of the ZAO being, the goal is to knowledge share ultimately. And I think that in the SaaS world of selling software as a service, which stands for SaaS, which is what SaaS stands for, there's this concept around um, um, gatekeeping knowledge, and there are so many people that make money off of that in this capitalistic world. But if we change our perspective to an open source mentality, or an open source developers mentality, where we're creating code to make the world better in this collective, and other people can build on top of it. And some people, yeah, they could copy it, take it for free, and use it in their way. But in the end of the day, if anyone is using our software, that's a net plus, and we can learn from that. And I think that mentality can be a much more and you can find specific places where it's a pull the ladder up culture versus help the people not make the same mistakes that you did. And I'd love to get your take on some of those communities that you've seen, and ways to kind of avoid that, or find, or sorry, I guess ways to find the place where people are trying to help you not make the same mistakes that they did, right? Like that
Yeah.
specific concept. I don't know.
Um, in Web3,
It could be in general too.
yeah, in general, I think in general it's an easier example for me. And in my professional career, I'm an equity consultant, so I run a business. I'm an equity consultant, and I got into that because I got a mentor who was in that field, and that mentor has walked me through the steps, held my hand until I was ready to become a professional on my own, get my own contracts, and we still work together to this day, getting contracts together and getting money together. So a person that is willing to help you get money, first of all, keep that person around. Um, and I think that mentorship, I kind of lost my train of thought, but mentorship is key. I think that is something I want to see more of in Web3 in general. More people willing to show you how to get like them, because I think we need more people um, that are elite, in our communities and groups, to bring us all up, to raise that bottom level, that bottom level of understanding, so that we're on a level of understanding. We're all moving as these, professional, seasoned, you know, mechanisms, organisms that are working together. You know what I mean? And so that is something that I do want to see more on both sides in Web3, on the NFT side and on the DAO side. I think that it is more of a kind of ego driven a little bit. You know what I mean? There's more icons and people who are you're supposed to follow. But I just want to see a little bit more, reaching down and pulling people up, and some wider perspectives, I would say. So communities that have, different voices that are contributing to the collective, communities that have different perspectives are key to growing this industry. I think.
I like it when I join a community and I can see an active chat. That's another one, right? Like there's
That's a,
somewhere where you join and you immediately see the last message was sent a week ago, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm gonna be like active in this chat if the last
exactly,
message was sent a
exactly.
week ago. right? So it's
That's
like
the
some of
thing
these
too.
key
So,
tells.
so that's being a good contributing community member, right? So sometimes there's this spirit, this PvP spirit in Web3 where it's like, okay, let me watch this person and see if they make it. You know what I mean? But sometimes you just gotta humble yourself. Even myself, as a founder, I have to humble myself and contribute in a way and be a good follower. Everybody can't be the lead. Everybody can't be the star. Sometimes you have to contribute. Sometimes you have to follow. You know what I mean? And sometimes you have to be a hype person. You just do. Sometimes you do. You gotta swallow that pride. You gotta get in there. You gotta be a hype person. You gotta be, I understand the GMs now, even though we can morph past the GMs into whatever else it's gonna be. But I understand the mechanism now. Because like you said, nobody wants to be in something that's dead. So just to be able to contribute, just to be able to like, okay, let me do my rounds, you know what I mean? Let me do my little piece and my part to make this successful. And I'm not saying like necessarily being a reply guy. I'm not saying that. I'm not necessarily saying like just free promotion for projects all the time. But definitely in the chats, I think it's important because that's where you're building community. That's where you're trying to like kind of suss out who's in here, who am I amongst, like who are these people, and we're still in PFP mode, so a lot of people are still cartoons, right? So we're like, you don't really know who's in the room. That's the thing. You really don't know who's in the room. There's all different types of levels of people in the room. And if you get brought into a room, um, I would say to be a good community member, doing your own research, DYOR, what that looks like is if you get put into a chat, go to the top of that chat in the top right hand corner, and it's going to give you a list of people in there. Try your best. With the PFP people, it's harder. With the NFT people, they're like a little more slippery. They're a little more anon. The DAO people, you can usually see their faces and stuff, so a little bit more easy to profile people. But go in there and profile people. Go into their profiles, click, see what they're talking about. Okay, this person is just a farmer, and all their posts are just about, okay, I'm probably not going to engage too much with them, but oh, this person, okay, they got a little workout post every day. Seem like they're doing something positive. I might tap in with them. Okay, this person, I think that's being a good community member. Don't just get into a community chat and just sit there and watch and be a lurker and like, because I feel like those people are like, they're just waiting on you to fail. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, I'm gonna be silent, even though I know I don't want to join a chat that's silent. You know what I mean? Well, don't be a lurker. You don't gotta be too active. Everybody has jobs, right? Everybody has jobs. You put your time where it's valuable. But if everybody's saying I'm busy with IRL and they're not putting their time into their Web3 communities or their chats, then that means there's no value there, right? If you can't slice off a time, a little piece, then that means there's something valuable lacking there. So I think as a community member, don't go blindly hoorahing projects and bull posting, but do your due diligence. Try to figure out who you're around, even though they're just PFPs. I think.
Yeah, finding your like 3 to 6 like best projects and places you're gonna spend that time as opposed to having 100, right? And like places you can like, okay, there's these 6 chats I know I'm gonna be, checking daily, popping in, supporting, and then like there's these like other 6 to 10 that like, okay, maybe once a week I know that I have to pop in here, check in on what's new, and make sure I catch up with whomever, right? So I wanted to tap back in on one of the things you spoke about at the beginning was the in real life component. And I know you've organized a bunch of different events there in Portland in different capacities, one being a Pizza Now event, as well as some other local events. And I think that to me has been one of the most valuable ways to really realize who's doing what and who's actually like adding and bringing value, because you can see it right up front in people's intentions and how they come about and how they come in and support and volunteer. And it's been really cool because a lot of the people that I've found in the pre-gen space have been very like willing to do whatever it takes and go above and beyond. And that's been really cool to see in this current day and age of the internet, where we see a lot of negative perceptions and negative things out there, right? So I feel like out of all the places in the world out there in the internet that I've been a part of, this kind of little place in subsect of Web3, you can find people that are trying to make the world better in their little way or form in the skill or asset or resource that they have. And I think that's super valuable, because when you have a group of people with that kind of mindset, you can really get some stuff done. So I'd love for you to tap in on, share on some like that IRL stuff. If someone's going to organize an event, like what are some of the tips that you would say that would really save all that time in the end? One of my big things is always the more time you put in that planning stages months in advance, the better the better result it'll be, right? But I would love to hear a little bit more of your thoughts on if you're planning an event or even just going to in-person event, like you said at the very beginning, try and find a local resource. Let's say you do find something online. When you go in, like how do you get involved, and what do you do at the start if you don't know anyone coming in?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first, getting tapped in, right? Apps like Meetup, apps like Eventbrite, places like Web3 can be a little bit harder, but there's some great efforts around IRL movements these days. 2026, 2027, I think there's going to be a huge push of IRL, um, local or smaller curated meetups. Um, so what do? I think I think first of all, stepping back, I think even if you're gonna think about stepping into Web3, I think you should think about coming with something. Whether it's your art, a business, something that you have. I'm not saying necessarily a resume, but it's something that you have to start and build off of. You know what I mean? Um, Ideas are great, but Web3 tends to be full of idea people, dreamers, idea people. And those idea people are trying to connect with executors. You know what I mean? So if you can kind of come in 50-50 already with your idea, but also a little bit of execution, I think that's going to put you miles ahead. You know what I mean? Coming into any situation in Web3. So just come in with a little something first. And then, so you're walking into the room, you don't know anybody. I think, a lot of online people sometimes tend to be introverts, so that might be a scary situation. I think finding maybe, I think that's where NFT communities do excel in the social setting, because you can find people who have, either a signia or an NFT kind of badge, or like, okay, those are my people. So in that way, NFT people have a little up on the like Web3 networking type. Okay, I'm meeting crypto people for the first time. Okay, there's my people. Immediately, I see something visual. There's a connection. Otherwise, maybe you just sit back and you just watch a little bit. You know what I mean? Usually, if it's an event, maybe hopefully somebody's going to be talking, or somebody's going to be the host and making their way around to introduce themselves. But if nobody's introducing themselves, then you're going to eventually have to go up to somebody, right? You're going to have to go up to somebody and introduce yourself, obviously. Um, and a lot of people use monikers that makes you feel a little bit safer. You have your Twitter that's a little bit removed from your personal life, and you have your moniker like, my name's MetaMove. And so that might give you a little bit of security in meeting random people that you might have met off the internet. I remember my first time I met with Web3 Pull Up, right? It was a group from an excellent group of creatives that I met in Web3. And the first time I was meeting them was NFT LA. And so I'm meeting these random people. So it's trust too, being vulnerable, right? It goes both ways. They're meeting me for the first time. They've only seen me on Spaces, or they've only heard my voice on Spaces. And they haven't even seen me at sometimes. You know what I mean? Some of these people haven't even ever seen you. So being able to make that connection is huge. Put a face to a name, and just break the ice. You know what I mean? We're gonna have to meet people. If you want to build with people, real things, you're gonna have to sign contracts, and you're gonna have to, know if you know where people live and their numbers and their names and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? We know each other behind our monikers. Me and you know each other because we're gonna have to do real business. We've done real business. So I think that goes a long way, being vulnerable. If you can't really be vulnerable around people, then how much trust can you really build with people? You know what I mean? if you're always on guard and thinking people are going to rob you, if you give them your name, they're going to rob you. If you give them their number, they're going to, spam you or put you on a scam list. You know what I mean? I don't see how community is really built that way. You know what I mean? So you're going into this new situation, you're going to have to be vulnerable, but you're going to have to trust that the people you're going into the situation are being vulnerable as well. You got your little something, you have something you're building off of, but you're also open to build with other people. In your boundaries, and you have realistic boundaries in your mind about other people that you're building with. They have lives, and a lot of people are, as much as they say they're in it to build, they're in it to make money, so they're not really available to really build something. You know what I mean? And then just the human psychology of like a lot of people don't want to build from the ground up anyway. They want to be a part of something that's already successful. So if you're coming in with something for somebody to be a part of, I think that goes a long way. And I'm kind of rambling, but
No,
yeah.
I love it. I think that's a great way to start and have something for someone to come in and try out, right? Like, so when you're coming in and meeting someone for the first time, I'm always look around, scan the room, and like find someone that's also kind of sitting by the side, not necessarily part of it, or on their phone, like maybe not including and say, hey, my name is Zal. What's your name? What do you like? What brings you here, right? And I think that you always find some way to start up a conversation that way. And I think the finding people at events and finding people to go with you to help break that ice sometimes and go and meet folks always helps.
Bring a friend.
Networking is great. Bring a friend, yeah.
But so y'all can both be like, oh, we both don't get this, you know what I mean? So you don't feel like you're in over your head. I think you touched on a good point. It's like finding the people or the projects that are not so hype and are not so big to just join and get a nice little home feeling, you know what I mean? So that you're not lost in the sauce. Don't go for the big projects or the big crowds. They try to be like, hey, you got and then you're like, oh, I don't like it because I didn't get noticed. You know what I mean? No, because that's how it is. You know what I mean? That's how life is. So start smaller, inch your way into smaller crowds, build those little crowds up, build those little projects up, build those people who are building, like you said. Yeah, that's a good point.
I love that. I think the build up people, finding those small groups where you can make a difference and get noticed, right? And share that value. I think adding value that way is super valuable. So, dude, it was a pleasure to have you on, sharing a little bit about coming in, getting involved. I think there's so many different ways to get involved, and it's so challenging right now because there's so few places to get involved. So it's the best time as a digital creator to get out there, show what you're about, show where people can try out, be a part of your community and help and grow that. So Metamu, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mainly be on CT Crypto Twitter Crypto Bro. You can find me at Metamu METAM00 on Twitter. You can find me Metamu on TikTok. You can find me Metamu on Instagram. You can also find Rose City Web 3 on all platforms. I'm lucky enough to swoop that up. Rose City Web 3 on all platforms. Or you can find me IRL. I'm very active in Portland, Oregon. I go to a lot of different events. If you want us to come to you and do some content, interviews, anything you want, you know what I mean, just hit me up. We're active. We're out here. We're not afraid to be seen, known. People know me in my city. So, we're out here building, and we're trying to bridge what we do here in the city of Portland to what we do in Web3 and bridge that together and bring some value to these people, you know what I mean? And help everybody grow, learn, and become a better person. You feel me? The next level.
Hell yeah. I love it. I appreciate you for coming on. Thanks for everyone listening in and coming in today. So we'll catch y'all